All right, let's talk about The Simpsons, a show so iconic, so ingrained in our collective consciousness that it feels like it's always been there. But even Homer Simpson, a man who once ate a glowing fish and lived to tell the tale, couldn't outrun the relentless march of time. So let's dive into the reasons why The Simpsons, a show that once redefined television comedy, has become a shadow of its former gloriously satirical self. Now, I'm not saying the current writers of The Simpsons aren't talented. They have their moments, and they certainly know how to put together a coherent episode. They're clearly capable of stringing together a sentence most of the time, but there's a certain magic that's missing, a spark that used to make every episode feel like a mini masterpiece. But the early seasons, those were a goddamn writer's room dream team. It was a golden era, a time when every joke landed and every storyline felt fresh and innovative. We're talking Conan O'Brien, folks. Yes, the same Conan who would go on to become a late-night television icon. Conan, the man who once made a career out of awkwardly holding a microphone and making self-deprecating jokes. His unique brand of humor was a perfect fit for The Simpsons. These writers, they weren't just churning out punchlines, they were crafting satire that was both hilarious and insightful. They had a knack for blending humor with social commentary in a way that felt effortless. They gave us episodes like Marge versus the Monorail and Cape Fear, episodes so iconic, so endlessly quotable, that they've become part of the cultural lexicon. These episodes weren't just funny, they were smart, layered, and full of heart. But as the years went by, many of these comedic titans moved on to bigger, arguably better things. The allure of new opportunities and creative freedom was too strong to resist. Some, like Conan, went on to host their own late-night talk shows. Others ventured into different realms of entertainment, spreading their comedic genius far and wide. And who could blame them? Writing for a show like The Simpsons is a demanding gig. The pressure to constantly deliver top-notch content can be overwhelming. Now, the writers who replaced these comedic legends, they weren't necessarily bad. They had their own strengths and brought new perspectives to the table. It's just, well, imagine replacing the Beatles with a Beatles cover band. The new writers had big shoes to fill, and while they tried their best, the magic of the original team was hard to replicate. The later seasons, they started to rely more on wacky, over-the-top storylines. The subtlety and sharp wit that once defined the show began to fade, replaced by more outlandish and sometimes forced humor. But let's not forget, The Simpsons has given us countless memorable moments over the years. It's a show that has left an indelible mark on pop culture, and for that, we should be grateful. So, while we may long for the days of the original Dream Team, let's also appreciate the laughter and joy The Simpsons continues to bring to audiences around the world. After all, in the ever-changing landscape of television, The Simpsons remains a beloved constant, a testament to the enduring power of good storytelling and humor. Now, let's talk about a little something called Flanderization. It's a term coined by us, the deeply observant and occasionally pretentious media critics, to describe the unfortunate phenomenon of characters in long-running shows becoming caricatures of themselves. This term is named after a certain green sweater-wearing, diddly-doodly-uttering neighbor of The Simpsons. You see, Ned Flanders in the early seasons was a genuinely good-hearted, albeit slightly uptight Christian neighbor. But then something strange happened. Ned Flanders, the man who once offered Homer solace and non-alcoholic beer, became, well, Flanderized. His defining characteristic, his unwavering piety, became his only characteristic. He went from being a well-rounded character to a walking, talking collection of catchphrases and exaggerated mannerisms. And sadly, Ned wasn't the only victim of the Flanderization epidemic. You know, there was a time not so long ago when The Simpsons was considered cutting-edge satire. It was a show that could make fun of anything and anyone, from the absurdity of American consumerism to the hypocrisy of organized religion. But as the years went by, something strange happened. The world changed. New forms of entertainment emerged, pushing the boundaries of comedy and social commentary. Shows like South Park and Family Guy arrived on the scene, armed with a more cynical, often offensive brand of humor. Satire, in this new digital age, had to be faster, sharper, more adaptable. The Simpsons, with its traditional animation style and episodic format, struggled to keep up. Ah, celebrity guest stars, the lifeblood of any show running on fumes and desperately trying to stay relevant. And The Simpsons, my friends, was not immune to this phenomenon. It got to the point where it felt like every episode had to have a celebrity guest star, regardless of whether or not it made sense for the story. Now, don't get me wrong, some of these guest appearances were genuinely brilliant. Danny DeVito as Homer's long-lost brother, for example, was a stroke of comedic genius. But for every inspired casting choice, there were a dozen that felt forced, awkward, and ultimately distracting. This over-reliance on celebrity guest stars, it's a symptom of a larger problem, really. Let's be honest, folks. After 30-plus seasons and over 700 episodes, The Simpsons has pretty much done it all. They've tackled every conceivable topic, from politics to religion to the existential dread of a middle-aged cartoon father. They've sent Homer to space, had him win a Grammy, even made him the subject of a critically acclaimed, Oscar-winning short film. So it's understandable, really, that after a while the well of inspiration might start to run a bit dry. The writers, bless their cotton socks, have tried their best to keep things fresh. They've experimented with different animation styles, introduced new characters, even killed off a few beloved ones. But after a while, it all starts to feel a bit, well, familiar. Remember when The Simpsons was the edgy, irreverent kid on the block? It was a show that dared to be different, breaking away from the traditional family sitcom mold. The Simpsons brought a fresh, satirical take on American life, poking fun at everything from politics to pop culture. Yeah, those were the good old days. The show quickly became a cultural phenomenon with its iconic characters and memorable catchphrases. It was a time when Bart's rebellious antics and Homer's bumbling yet lovable nature captured the hearts of millions. But as with all things in life, time marches on and a new generation of animated anarchy emerged. The Simpsons paved the way, but soon other shows would take the torch and run with it, bringing their own unique flavors to the world of animation. Shows like Family Guy and South Park arrived on the scene, armed with a more cynical, often offensive brand of humor. They weren't just following in The Simpsons' footsteps, they were carving out their own paths, each with a distinct voice and style. These shows weren't afraid to tackle taboo subjects, to mock sacred cows, to push the envelope of good taste. They thrived on controversy, using it as a tool to engage and provoke their audiences. Family Guy, with its cutaway gags and pop culture references, became the go-to show for viewers who liked their humor fast-paced and self-referential. Its rapid-fire jokes and absurd scenarios kept audiences on their toes, always wondering what outrageous thing would happen next. South Park, with its crude animation style and biting social commentary, became a haven for those who preferred their satire served with a side of righteous indignation. The show's creators, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, used their platform to address real-world issues, often with a sharp, unapologetic edge. These shows, they weren't just pushing the boundaries of comedy, they were redefining what animation could be. They showed that animated series could be more than just entertainment for kids. They could be a powerful medium for social commentary, satire, and even political discourse. In doing so, they opened the door for a new era of animated anarchy, one that continues to evolve and surprise us to this day. Let's face it, folks, the way we watch TV and movies has undergone a seismic shift. The way we consume entertainment has changed more in the past decade than Homer Simpson's cholesterol levels after a night at Moe's Tavern. Remember the days when we had to wait a whole week for the next episode of our favorite show? Those days are long gone. The rise of streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and Disney Plus has fundamentally altered the television landscape. These platforms have given us the power to watch what we want, when we want, and how we want. No more being tied to a TV schedule. And in this brave new world of on-demand entertainment, the traditional sitcom format has started to feel, well, a bit antiquated. The laugh track, the predictable plot lines, they just don't hold up against the innovative storytelling we see today. Shows that embrace serialized storytelling with complex characters and intricate plot lines have become the norm. These series draw us in with their depth and keep us hooked with their twists and turns. Stranger Things, The Crown, Game of Thrones, these shows with their cinematic production values and addictive, binge-worthy narratives have captured the imaginations of viewers worldwide. They offer a level of engagement that traditional TV just can't match. And then there are the animated shows that have embraced the creative freedom offered by streaming services. These aren't just for kids anymore. They're pushing boundaries in ways we'd never imagined. These shows, they weren't just pushing the boundaries of comedy, they were redefining what animation could be. From adult humor to complex themes, animated series have found a new home and a new audience in the streaming era. The landscape of entertainment has truly transformed, and it's an exciting time to be a viewer. So, there you have it, folks, the rise and, some might argue, the fall of The Simpsons. A show that was once a cultural phenomenon, a satirical masterpiece, has become, well, a bit of a shadow of its former self. But you know what? That's okay. Not every show can be The Simpsons in its prime. The fact that it's still on the air after all these years is a testament to its enduring legacy. Despite these criticisms, The Simpsons still has moments of brilliance, and its impact on pop culture remains undeniable.